Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm just sweating it out here in the shop. It is hot. I need to get AC in here. I mean, or at least a fan. I am I've already gone through like 3 hats today. They just get so waterlogged, sweat logged. But anyways, today I wanted to talk about jigs and how I select jig trailers for my jigs. And we're primarily going to be talking about flipping, pitching jigs, and also football jigs. You can apply the same thing to both of these. But more so the flipping and pitching jig. We're gonna leave swim jigs to a totally different video, which we've already done, so go check out that video. But yeah, I mean, everybody loves jigs. I don't know a bass fisherman that doesn't throw a jig or have a jig in their tackle box. I think it's been called the most versatile lure out there. I think there's a really good argument for that. And one of the things that makes it really versatile is the fact that you can mix and match different jig trailers to match the conditions you're fishing, whether it's water temperature or the type of cover you're fishing. And those are really the 2 main factors that I pay attention to when it comes to what type of trailers I use. You've got trailers that I would put in the chunk category, such as the bat wings here. They really have a lot of surface area, but they don't have a lot of action. Like, they don't flap at all. The appendages are just more flat, and they're more designed to create a subtle action. And so you've got the chunks, but then you've also got baits that create a lot of action. They're designed to have a lot of action, like the Z-Man goat or the Billy goat. These have these 2 little flapping appendages on the back, create a lot of action, a real erratic, hectic, kicking action. And then you've also got the flap and cross style baits, like the Helicross. This one is awesome. This is my new favorite flap and cross style bait. Really glad that they came out with this one. But both of these, the goat and the Helicross, these type of baits, these type of trailers create a lot more action. They actually have inherent action, and so very, very different than a traditional chunk. Now, there's 2 different situations I already mentioned that I really pay attention to, or variables that I'm looking for to decide whether I'm using a chunk or something that has a little bit more action. The first is water temperature, and as a basic rule, like during the pre-spawn or the winter time when the water is at its coldest, that's when I'm going to reach for a chunk. Chunks, because they don't have a lot of inherent action to it, they really just allow that bait to have that subtle, subdued action that I'm really trying to achieve, because I'm trying to imitate forage species like crawfish that are moving very, very slow. They're very sluggish. They're not moving very fast, and so I want a bait to kind of emulate that. So the chunk is really my choice when I'm fishing colder water, usually pre-spawn, wintertime. The chunk is the deal. Now, once you get into the spawn and the post-spawn and in summertime conditions, that's when I really branch out and start fishing, trailers that have more action, such as the Helicross or the goat, because the forage species are much more active. They're moving faster. They're just more active, and so I want to imitate the forage and how they're acting at that time. So temperature is a really, really big factor when it comes to jig trailer choice. But I think that an even bigger factor that I don't think is thought about that much, but is really important, is the type of cover you're fishing. Now, you can fish a jig around just about any type of cover, and when it comes to wood cover versus vegetation cover, I think there's a really big difference as far as how you want the jig to fall. And how the jig falls is really dictated by a lot by the trailer choice. With a chunk trailer that doesn't have a lot of action, it has a lot of surface area, but it doesn't move a lot. A chunk really allows a jig to have a more horizontal fall. It kind of falls kind of at an angle most of the time, so it'll just have a little bit more horizontal action to it. And that is really good to have when you're fishing something that is more vertical cover, you know, such as docks, dock posts, you know, wood, something that isn't like super dense, but you want that bait to kind of like glide into a little bit. So a chunk is a really good choice if you're fishing hard cover such as rocks, docks, or laydowns. But for vegetation, I don't want that glide, because usually I want that jig to fall straight down through the cover and get to the bottom quickly, and I don't want it to have that horizontal movement to it. So what I'll end up doing is I like to use one of these baits that has a lot more action to it. And what happens with a bait that has those flapping tails on it, like the goat or the helicross, is that when you put it on the back of a jig, it creates a lot more drag, and it creates a parachute effect. So instead of that jig kind of gliding like that, it hits the water and it goes straight down, and those tails are just, you know, kicking all the way down. And so that's more advantageous to fishing around grass, you know, thick vegetation, fishing pads, something like that. So I really, as a general rule, like to fish flap and cross style baits around grass and the chunks around wood. Now, I will say this, another reason why I like to fish the flap and cross style or the more action type trailers in vegetation is also because it creates a lot of vibration, and I feel like I can pull fish from, you know, a little bit further in that cover to my bait. So that's another consideration. But that is, in general, how I choose my trailers based on water temperature and also the type of cover I'm fishing. And yeah, that's just my general rule of thumb. It definitely changes from situation to situation and what type of bait fish I'm trying to imitate, things like that. But those are definitely some things to keep in mind. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you drop a comment below if you have any questions or comments, and make sure you like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys' you know, feedback and support, and I'm going to see you out on the water. Take care.